So it's finally time for episode 2, Critic Chris, where this time I'm actually going to be doing a proper game review. In fact, I'm going to be reviewing Touch My Katamari, as it's called in English. Katamari no Bita in Japanese, as I've said before. The box is, take it or leave it. It's a tiny thing anyway, to be honest. But I've pretty much completed the game now. I've completed all the main story missions, and I think the whole game I've maybe done about 60-ish%, something like that. I still play it every now and then now. The main game itself, lengthwise, is about 3 hours, which is pretty short by my memory of normal Katamari games anywhere, or at least the last PS3 one, which was the one I played the most by far out of all of them. But it sounds short, but I found it incredibly enjoyable. It's definitely my favourite Vita game so far. As far as, unique Vita games go that were made for the system, Katamari probably makes the best use of the touch controls and the rear touch panel, and all the other features as well. I mean, it does something with Nier as well, but I don't think anyone really understands quite what Nier's game is at this moment in time. I've tried to use it once. It's definitely not as simple as the 3DS's Street Pass feature, which, was pretty intuitive and worked from the get-go. I think you even have to register something for Nier maybe, but it's a bit odd, and yeah, I don't really care, to be honest, right now, because there isn't really any incentive to use it anyway. So as for the specific parts of the game itself, I thought I'd at least mention the music before I forget to, because that's definitely one of the biggest contributing things to this game that makes me love it so much. As with every Katamari, it's got a superb soundtrack that's made up of partially made up of remixes and some original songs as well. I mean, I would really love to buy the soundtrack, and it came on sale in Japan maybe like a week or so ago, but sadly it's ridiculously priced. It's 2,800 yen, which is about £24. It's only got 15 tracks, so you're paying a fair hefty fee per track there, and and it's not even available for download anyway yet, like illegal or otherwise, from what I know. Certainly not for any good prices, so I think it's just going to be a case of playing the waiting game until that shows up for cheaper means. But that is definitely a soundtrack I would really enjoy having. So that's that's obviously, I would not pay that. I would not pay £24 for any soundtrack, but if there was going to be one I would pay that kind of money for, it probably would be this Katamari, so that's probably about as high praise as I can give it, honestly. As for the gameplay itself, like I said before, it definitely makes the best use of the touch controls I've seen as of yet. They just feel really natural and unforced. The new gimmick in this Katamari game is that in all the past ones, obviously the game was basically, you roll the ball around, you pick stuff up, the ball increases in size, and the bigger your ball gets, the bigger things you can pick up. So obviously start picking up tiny objects and move gradually until you get to entire countries, people, massive animals, cars, trains, planes, everything, mythical creatures, whales, planets even. Not in this one, sadly, though. You never get to roll up a planet in this Katamari. That's probably my biggest disappointment with it, although it's a bit of a weird disappointment if you're not familiar with Katamari, but I expected that the last level would be a lot more, universal in its approach. Although it is special in its own way, I won't spoil it, but you're not going to be rolling up planets in this game, sadly, unless they decide to release a level like that as DLC, which they do seem to be planning on supporting this game with DLC quite a lot. So that's pretty encouraging to see. And you don't even have to pay for the DLC, technically. You can actually earn the levels yourself by picking up these things called fan spirits in the game. That's what it translates as from the Japanese version. I don't know what the official translation will be, but I'll call them fan spirits for now. You pick these guys up, they're little red weird things with heart-shaped heads. And basically when you collect, I think it's about 9 of those, you can unlock one of the DLC levels for free. I think the DLC itself, even one level only costs about £1, I want to say, anyway. And that's the yen price as well, so presumably it's going to be cheaper in the EU/America. But I think that's really cool that you can basically, if you play the game enough / are good enough at it, you can unlock the DLC for free, and if you just want it there and then, like, you've got that option as well of paying a kind of smallish fee. So honestly, I don't really have a lot else to say about the game. I don't really want to spoil the level settings because that's a big part of Katamari anyway. There is a story, a sort of vague story to it, which made me laugh a lot. I mean, hopefully, I'm not sure if it really, unless you understand Japanese culture, you're not really going to be able to appreciate it that much, but it does make fun of a very special type of kind of unemployed, just generally lazy kind of nerd that exists in Japan. There's obviously the famous type of like otaku, as they call them, who are just people who are really obsessed with stuff like anime, manga, whatever, games. But this is there's another type of nerd that's called NEETO, well, NEET, which stands for something like not employed, not in education or training. And apparently it was an old British acronym that obviously never caught on anywhere but Japan for some reason. But they have a really interesting transformation story about him, which I sort of featured in the last video a bit at the beginning, but I won't spoil that either because it's pretty amazing and hopefully they can translate that well enough. But yeah, in summary, I would have to say, if you like Katamari, you're going to love this. They do enough different. It's definitely the most different Katamari compared to all the others. I mean, I've been a big fan of Katamari for quite a while now, and my love still hasn't waned for it just yet. Who knows? I mean, maybe they'll release more. I mean, the DLC doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon from what I've heard. I'm not entirely sure when the next batch is meant to come, but it seems like they're pretty dedicated to that, so I'm pretty happy about that. But yeah, I'd probably, overall, I would have to give it maybe an 8 out of 10, I think. Seems about a fair enough score. I mean, that's mainly because it was a bit short than I was expecting, and I was kind of disappointed that you didn't get to like roll up any massive planets, which sounds like a really weird complaint again, but as a Katamari fan I was kind of expecting the scale to be a bit bigger than it ultimately wound up being. I don't know if that was because of hardware restrictions or time limitations trying to get it out for Vita launch, but as of this moment in time, I would say if you're gonna buy a Vita, import one, or if you're buying it at US launch even, I'd definitely pick up Katamari. And also, if you're buying it US and EU launch, Gravity Days, or Gravity Rush as it's known in the West, is also going to be a launch title, I've heard, so I would definitely pick that up as well, because I played the demo of that, and it was just as good as I imagined, so I reckon that's going to be a really, really solid game.